What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be learning a little something about UK politics, specifically how British politics could be about to change forever. I came across this video and the title definitely has me intrigued. What is it specifically about British politics that either has already started changing or may be about to change forever? I mean, that's a huge claim to say your politics are literally about to change forever. I don't really know what to expect from this video, guys. I haven't really looked into UK politics all that much, but I wanted to check out something about politics this week because I know you guys have an election coming up. I believe it's on Thursday. So anyways, guys, let's go ahead and jump in and check out how British politics could be about to change forever.
Take a look at this graph. It tracks the polling data for the UK's main political parties. The picture after 2024 starts to look really different.
Hold up. So are these the Conservatives and these are the Labour or the Liberal Democrats or the Labour Party, I believe, right? I'm not 100% sure. What are these different parties?
Messy, chaotic. It's difficult to work out who might win. But what if we do this? This is exactly the same data, but we've grouped the left-wing and the right-wing parties.
Oh, wow.
And suddenly...
Okay, that's extremely close. So I'm looking at this. Would you say this means that British society in general has become more partisan? Is that kind of what we're looking at here? I mean, you kind of had it close back here in 2020, but it seemed like there was a divergence, and then all of a sudden, you basically have come back together, and it's very close, left and right, I guess is what we're looking at.
It looks super simple. 2 straight lines in the last year. Together, these graphs reveal what's behind a fundamental change in British politics. For over a century, Labour and the Conservatives have dominated British politics. But that could all be set to change. Challenger parties like Reform, the Greens, Plaid Cymru and the SNP set for some of their best, if not the best, ever results in devolved elections in Wales and Scotland and local elections in England in May. So...
Okay. I know who the Green Party is, obviously. We have a Green Party here in the U.S., but they said Reform. I've heard the Reform Party before. I don't know anything about their platform. But it sounds like them and the Greens and
change.
Who else they say?
Challenger parties like Reform, the Greens, Plaid Cymru and the SNP set.
Is that the Welsh party they were just talking about?
For some of their best,
Scotland.
if not the best, ever results in devolved elections in Wales and Scotland and local elections in England in May. So, what on earth is going on? We've been given exclusive data from YouGov, and it shows how we can make sense of the huge changes happening in British politics. Now here's the big question. Is Britain's political landscape about to change forever? And could May's election start a chain reaction?
That's a big claim.
That sweeps away Labour and the Conservatives.
Okay, Labour and Conservatives right there, I believe.
To know. First, let's look at the rise of the challenger parties. This chart shows polling results for 5 of the largest parties in the UK. You can see that the challenger parties here, Reform, the Lib Dems and the Greens, have been doing a lot better.
Okay, whatever blue line this is has jumped big time. I wonder which party that is. And I'm guessing Green would be the Green Party. It would make sense.
Isolate Reform UK, take a look at this point from the 2025 local elections. That's the dot. The dot shows what their vote share would have been if those elections were happening everywhere. You can see it's the first time they were able to translate that polling support into real votes. This May, their support has dropped back a bit, but it's still loads higher than here in 2022. That's when this year's seats were last fought. So Reform expect to make gains in May. Different parts of the country hold elections in different years. And this May, there aren't as many places where the Lib Dems are as likely to make loads of gains. But their support has remained very stable, on a similar level,
that's the Lib Dems,
to when they had a great result at the 2024 general election. And the Lib Dems, as you can see, tend to do better in local elections because the dots there are always above their polling support in these locals. Now here's the Greens polling, and it's increased a lot recently. And the Greens are a direct threat to Labour. And if we look at Wales and Scotland, who are having devolved elections, Labour and the Conservatives are also doing terribly. Take Scotland, for example. There you can see that Reform isn't doing as well as in England, but could do enough to get into second place. And while Labour's decline allows the SNP to remain dominant, even while the SNP's support has fallen.
SNP, is that Scotland National Party? That's what I'm guessing. I'm not 100% sure, but that would make sense in Scottish polls. So this is the Labour Party, and they've had a dramatic drop since, I guess this was the last general election, I think. I'm not 100% sure of that, but it sounds like it. And then you got the Reform Party, which is just basically, it looks like it's practically come out of nowhere. That is wild. And it's very interesting because this would be the equivalent, I believe, of, our Republican and Democrat parties falling, down the polls big time, and then having some other party like the Greens or the Libertarian Party or something like that just popping and just like gaining like 20% of support in just a couple of years. That's unheard of here, and I'm guessing that's probably unheard of in the UK as well.
It's fallen, but it's in Wales where Labour could be in even greater trouble.
Holy!
You can see how dominant they were for years.
Wow.
And now they're polling in fourth place. The choice for many voters is now between Plaid Cymru and Reform. So across the country, we're seeing much more fragmentation of votes. But surprisingly, this isn't a new phenomenon. Just look at this graph. It shows the combined vote share of Labour and the Conservatives has been going down for years. In the 1970 general election, almost all the votes were for Labour or the Tories. But as we go through the years, that share has shrunk and shrunk and shrunk, with the exception of 2017 and 2019. We'll explain.
Hold on. I want to see right there again.
19.
Okay. So we're just below 60% here in 2024. Wow. I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean, you can see the downward trend, but I wouldn't say that it was extreme, but it's gotten to the point. This is a major drop in 2024, and it seems like it's come even further down since then.
We'll explain why that happened in a moment. But first, let's go back to that graph and add in how Labour and the Conservatives are polling right now.
Oh, here we go.
Only 37% of voters would
my goodness.
Parties.
Wow.
That is a momentous drop, which means that
that's insane.
63% of votes would be for those challenger parties. And we've never seen anything like this before. It's possible.
I can see you.
At a tipping point where voters are really wholesale rejecting the two traditional parties on a scale like never before. And may not.
Can I say, to me, this is refreshing. I don't even know what, the other parties would stand on, like what their platforms are. I don't know anything about Reform. I don't know a lot about Green. Actually, I don't know anything about Green in the UK. I don't know if they're the same kind of as the Green Party here or not. And then there's the Lib Dems, and then I forgot what other ones you have. But, it would be very refreshing here if we could kind of get a third party that could get some serious power behind them. I would like to see that because I'm so tired of our two-party system. I would love to see a break from that in some capacity. And it seems like you guys are actually getting that to a certain extent. I mean, honestly, I think there's a 37%, if I'm not mistaken, were still in support of Conservatives or the Tories or the Labour Party. And to see these other parties coming up, that's pretty cool, man. I really like that. Gives you more options.
To them again in the future. Votes for challenger parties are usually higher in local elections, and that's because in general elections we know people see themselves as voting for a different government. And until now, Labour and the Conservatives have been viewed as the only real viable contenders for that. But what if that's all about to change? One reason these local elections are so important is that they could be another sign that the challengers are no longer the challengers.
Wow.
That they wouldn't be a wasted vote in a general election.
That's wild.
That's a game changer for Labour and the Tories. So what's causing this shift? Well, partly it's a result of younger generations not voting for the same party as their parents, and that used to be much more common. And so challenger parties can do better because people are just more willing to switch their support between elections. But what about those 2 years there, in 2017 and 2019, when it looks like the two main parties regained their strength? Well, that was largely down to one thing:
Brexit.
Brexit. Brexit.
Brexit.
Breakfast.
Breakfast.
Brexit.
And Labour and the Conservatives represented the two sides of that debate, which is a major reason why all their votes went their way.
Okay.
But I'm afraid that isn't the last we've heard of the B word. The two sides of that debate still structure every election since, with voters split pretty much in half. We're going to introduce our two voting blocks. We're going to talk about these quite a bit, and we can broadly split today's voters into socially liberal people who supported Remain back in the Brexit debate, and those who are more small c conservative and who supported Brexit. Let's assign our parties to those groups. In the left-hand block, we have Labour, the Lib Dems, the SNP, Plaid Cymru and the Greens. In the right block, the Conservatives and Reform. We'll come back to those in a moment. We're going to go back to our exclusive data from YouGov. And once again, we're going to look at how much switching there's been since 2024. These are people switching which party they would vote for since the last election up until April. And it looks super messy. It sums up how fragmented the system looks now. Just
wow.
Look at all the different places the Labour vote has disappeared to.
Oh my goodness. So what you're seeing is, it looks like, based off of the chart we just saw and this here, that the Labour Party has their votes being taken to so many different areas. And the Tories seem to only mostly just go into Reform, if I'm not mistaken.
And similarly, the Conservatives continue to lose votes.
Oh, wait.
Let's go back to our two voting.
Wow. So it seems like you got a huge block going to Reform, and then what would this be? I have no idea what that would be. And then you got small amounts going to some of the other parties.
Blocks, and we can group these changes within each block. And this is what happens. This shows how many of those right bloc voters are still intending to vote for a party in the same side. And this graph shows how many left bloc voters are still intending to vote for a party in their same side. You can see that almost all of the switching has been within the same political side.
I mean, that makes sense to me.
We're still in a two-sided political world.
Yeah, that's true.
But voters are choosing different parties within those two sides.
Okay.
And why is that? One reason is simple. Both Labour and the Conservatives are being punished for difficult times while in government. People are very worried about their finances and the state of the country, and they can't see things getting better. So
yes, see, that's the thing, that obviously you guys have the opportunity that if you are dissatisfied with your current main two parties, you actually have the option to give some power to some of the smaller parties. It's kind of like, in some ways, you have the ability to actually take a protest vote and make it count. Here in the U.S., you don't even have that option. Like, you got the two parties, and whether you're on the right or the left, if you're upset with the direction of where your main party has taken things or what they're doing, you really don't have many other options to go to another party that kind of aligns with what you support. But obviously, that is a little bit different in the UK. And I can appreciate that because, there's so many times I would love to see some new leaders come in because it's always just the two-party system.
Rejecting those parties, but they're choosing a different party on the same political side to them on other issues. Also, as we said earlier, those challenger parties now look more viable. And the more people vote for these parties, the more people see them as parties they could also vote for without their vote being wasted.
Right,
so with all this in mind, what does it mean for what may happen this May? As we've learned, even if there are more parties in the mix nationally, people are still choosing between two primary sides. And that means the choices are often between which party is best placed to win locally in each side, between two or three parties. And this shows what's really going on. This graph tracks the number of parties picking up a meaningful number of possible votes.
Okay, so wow, it was always around that. It was 2.5 to 3 from 1983 to 2004 or so, which is, wow, that's insane. Then it jumps up to, for like a decade or so, at about 3.5. And then you had it go between 3.25 to 4 for like another decade. And all of a sudden, you've jumped up to 5.5. That's crazy. That is a massive shift. I mean, that is by far the most massive shift you've had, at least since 1983, maybe ever. I mean, look at this. That is insane. I mean, like, you had this jump, which, you know, you could say was like one extra party polling. But now you're up another 2. That's like double. Wow.
The 80s. Since the 1980s, roughly 3 parties have been in contention in the polls at any given time. And that has been mostly flat, with around 2 to 3 parties in contention. However, since 2024, that number has shot up. And there are now around 5 parties gaining meaningful support in the polls. That's another way of showing the splintering of party support. But even within this rise, the 3 most recent by-elections tell a different story of what happens at the constituency level. Each of these still only had 2 or 3 parties really competing. People's choices were still boiling down to parties either on the left bloc or in the right bloc. Like in Caerphilly, in the by-election in Wales, where Plaid Cymru and Reform picked up most of the votes. Still a choice between 2 parties, but completely different parties to the ones that we're used to. And different parties within each bloc will do better in different parts of Great Britain because people's political views differ across the country. And so the key thing is that even if nationally there are loads more parties in contention, individual elections are still coming down to a choice between 2 or 3 parties, as has been the case for over 40 years. The broader picture of all of this is about more than just what happens in May's elections. It's really about Labour and the Conservatives fighting for their very political survival.
Wow.
The stats show us that their traditional voters are still voting along ideological lines. In that sense, things are far less chaotic than they might look, but with once challenger parties now becoming viable options for voters, there's a risk that the decline in support for Labour and the Conservatives could be terminal. Are we watching the beginning of the end for the 2 parties that have dominated British politics for the last 80 years? Will voters cross the Rubicon, vote for new challengers within their bloc, without looking back to the traditional parties? Or will they fall back on the safety of the past when the next general election comes around? That's the single biggest and most important question right now in British politics, and it's why these local and devolved elections on the 7th of May really matter.
All right, guys. You know, I wasn't really sure what kind of elections were coming up on the 7th. I was like, you guys just had a general election, so I didn't really think that was what was happening. It sounds like these are local elections. I'm still confused on how your, election process actually works. This is wild to me. And, like I said, I really appreciate the fact that you guys can actually give power to other parties besides just the 2 main parties. There's nothing wrong with having 2 main parties, right? There's nothing wrong with that on the surface. The problem is when, like in U.S. politics, none of the third parties can really ever get a footing. That's just sad to me. It's like it would be nice to be able to, even if it's a small amount of power, even if it's not a ton, I would still like to see some of our other third parties be able to come up and kind of challenge the status quo that the 2 main parties always represent. And that's unfortunate that we just don't have that in the U.S. And you guys seem to not only have that, I knew that you guys had the ability to get multiple parties beside the 2 main parties into power. But I had no idea that it was splintering this much to the point that the 2 main parties seem to have about 37% support right now. That is wild. That's insane because I can only compare that to politics here in the U.S. And I'm sitting there thinking the Republicans and the Democrats all of a sudden only having like 37% support, or even if it ended up higher, even if it was 40, 45, 50% support, 60% support would be insane. And so like, I'm looking at that and it's just like, wow, that is amazing to me. You guys have the ability to challenge your 2 parties. That's pretty cool. It's always good if you can have challenges to, the the Goliath in the room, so to speak. You want to be able to challenge the main systems. Otherwise, it's much easier to continue to have corruption and whatnot. And, like our two-party system in the U.S. definitely has led to a lot of corruption. It's horrible. Both sides. It's horrible. And I would love to be able to elect some people that could truly keep them in check a little bit. But that's something I can't see happening anytime in the near future in the U.S. But it seems like you guys in the UK, not only are you able to find closer representation to what you probably support because you have so many different parties, you're able to actually get some power to these smaller parties. And that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Anyways, guys, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow us on our journey. Until next time, peace.